Well, sticking with retail and some of those shopping trends that we have been seeing this season, PWC is out with its new consumer holiday report. And for that, we want to bring in Tyson Cornell. He's PWC's U.S. consumer markets leader. And Tyson, great to have you on the program. Just looking at the numbers so far, I think the question at this point is how strong the consumer is. How big of a holiday shopping season are you expecting to see given the data that you have been looking at?
Yeah, well, this is absolutely a year like no other, right? So it's very hard to predict. In fact, when we've been doing the survey for many years, this year we decided to try and get different points of feedback from the consumer because we knew that there's so much uncertainty. But when you look at this year with a year of loss, I think we're excited to say we're hoping to see a season of giving. Holiday spending we do expect to be down 7%, but we do expect gifts to be up by 9%, which is the highest ever increase. And when you look at that, most of that down is being driven by travel and entertainment, which is down 27%. Yet, when you look at spending overall for gifts, personal spending is down 22%. So it's all about gifts. Friends and family gift spending is up 16%. And pets, interestingly enough, is up 21%, which I think we're not all surprised about because of all the adoptions we've seen during the pandemic.
Yeah, that certainly is true, especially when you bring up that point. Some of the trends, though, that we have seen, I think the question is to what extent the pandemic has accelerated consumer behavior trends. And clearly one area that we have seen consumers turn to has been e-commerce. We saw that reflected in Nike's results, which we were just talking about a couple of minutes ago. But when you take a look at some of those trends, what would you say are the biggest shopping trends so far of 2020?
Absolutely. Well, when you see there's big winners and losers, and those retailers that have invested in their e-commerce backbone and in the e-commerce capabilities are clearly differentiating themselves. What we're seeing, though, is also the operationalization of a lot of e-commerce. Things that were more customer preferences or convenience items are now really critical infrastructure, especially during the pandemic. And one thing that's been taken a big leap forward is curbside pickup. We've seen not only having curbside pickup in the past, but we've seen it really be operationalized. In fact, curbside pickup is something 40% of consumers are saying, positively impacts their loyalty and something they expect to see from the retailers. And I think we're seeing that across the retailers where curbside pickup maybe was something that they had and it was more just, buy online, pick up in the store. But now they've really operationalized it with dedicated lanes, dedicated individuals serving curbside pickup. And we've seen that as a huge trend, and consumers are expecting that.
Speaking of curbside pickup, on the flip side of that, we've seen shipping delays. I know I'm suffering from that right now. I'm still waiting for some of the gifts that I have gotten people, and we're down to the wire about whether or not I'm going to receive those packages. But what does this mean, I guess, one, for small businesses? Are more people turning to small businesses because of this? And how does it affect that brand loyalty that you were just talking about?
You're exactly right. This year, it's interesting because obviously there's one retailer that 89% of people are going to be shopping at, which is the big e-commerce giant. Yet we've seen many people this year say that they're actually looking at alternatives to shop. In fact, almost 50% of our consumers that we survey are looking for alternative options. In fact, they're looking at convenience to be able to move to those other options and would like to. So faster shipping is the top reason they would move to these alternatives. But shipping is such a critical factor that we're seeing retailers take a number of steps to make sure they can address shipping. Obviously, we've seen in recent days the cutoff of shipping dates and the over communication to set expectations around when consumers will receive their goods. That's so important because as a number of consumers have shifted to new brands and are trying new brands, given so much online e-commerce this year, the retailers want to keep those consumers. So that experience that they receive is going to be so important. We've also seen unprecedented seasonal hiring. And there's been hundreds of thousands of individuals hired that aren't the typical roles we see during seasonal hiring to maybe help out in stores or help pick that right gift. But we are seeing them now helping out in curbside pickup. We're also seeing them obviously in distribution centers and many, many of the shippers. In fact, we have so many people that the shippers are trying to do the best they can, but we clearly are going to have a crunch given a number of factors. And then there's, of course, weather. And we know that this past weekend right now is probably going to impact shipping.
Yeah, certainly. We saw a huge storm here in the Northeast. All right, Tyson Cornell, PWC's U.S. consumer markets leader. Thanks for taking the time.
Thank you, Shanna.